Hello and welcome to Data Driven, the podcast where we explore the emerging field of data science. We bring the best minds in data, software engineering, machine learning and artificial intelligence. Now here are your hosts, Frank Lavinia and Andy Leonard.
Hello and welcome back to Data Driven, the podcast where we explore the emerging fields of data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. If you like to think of data as the new oil, then you can consider us like Car Talk, because we focus on where the rubber meets the virtual road. And with me on this epic trip down the information superhighway is everybody's favorite chief engineer, Andy Leonard. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing well, Frank. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's been an interesting week at Chateau Lavinia. Some definite chaos monkeys in the universe. Well, you know this, but our listeners probably don't. I guess we're recording this on September 6th. And this week there was the Azure outage, which we kind of talked in depth about with Stu. Mm-hmm. And I thought my transmission blew out on me.
Oh,
that was pretty brutal. So I'm like, oh God, I got to go car shopping and all this, and
right.
Or spend a lot of money to keep my current car, and didn't really budget for that one. But fortunately, it was the axle snapped.
That's crazy. I've never heard of an axle snapping.
Neither did I. And what's weird is the mechanic said kind of the same thing. He was like,
wow.
He told me, he's like, first he called me and he was like, the axle snapped, and I'm like, oh my God, like that too. And he goes, no, transmission's fine. I'm like, what? He goes, well, wow. And it's a $600 repair neighborhood versus $3,000 plus God knows what. So I was naturally relieved, but when I was talking to him, I was like, he goes, does this happen often? Because I never heard of this. He goes, no, it's funny. He said, up until 6 months ago, I'd never seen it.
Wow.
I saw one 6 months ago, and you're the second one I've seen.
Huh.
And I was just kind of like...
Sounds like a pattern to me, you know?
Well, you never know. But it's funny you mention that, because that was my first thought. It's like, do you guys capture data on this sort of thing? And he just looked at me like, I guess, like in the mainframe or something. He pointed at this old Windows box, and I was like, yeah. But I do wonder if there's a data set for that. That's the data geek in me. How about you, Andy? What's new with you?
That would be interesting if there's a data set for that. Not much is new. It's the end of summer and we're past Labor Day. It's a really interesting time of the year for consulting because usually the phone starts ringing around this time of year. And I would say it's probably the best time for sales on average of the year. And it's because some folks start their fiscal year, most folks start their fiscal year October 1st. Some have money they have to spend before October 1st. Others have money they're going to be able to spend after. And so it's an interesting time in our sales cycle. We are, getting ready to gear up, which means travel. Starting to look forward to the PASS Summit. That's coming up in less than 10 weeks.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's I think it's actually 10 weeks from now or maybe 9 weeks from now. But anyway, yeah, PASS Summit.
Early November then?
Early November, the first week of November in Seattle. And a lot of people are starting to talk about it and plan for it. So a lot of cool stuff going on out there. I'm gonna give it. Last year I gave out a whole slew of data-driven flyers. I'm gonna have some more. And this year, Frank, Enterprise Data and Analytics is actually exhibiting. So we'll be handing out Enterprise Data and Analytics plus data-driven flyers.
Maybe we'll have data-driven stickers.
Ooh, stickers.
Stickers. I have a bunch of stickers printed up with the. If you're familiar with the Obey kind of graffiti meme.
Yes.
Yeah, I have one that says data.
Nice.
So I have the T-shirt, you have the T-shirt, and I have stickers. So,
well, maybe I'll get some T-shirts to give away. I don't know. There's some rules about giveaways out there. I'll have to kind of check and see. But yes, it would be nice to have a T-shirt to give away. I think that would be an interesting promotion. But anyway, looking forward to that. Our guest today is actually involved in PASS, and I consider Rie a friend. Maybe she considers me a friend too. I don't know. Hope so. We go to a lot of the same events. I'll bet she'll be at the PASS Summit this year as well. and she's one of the smartest ladies I know. She does an awful lot in the community in the Atlanta area, and I'm very honored to introduce Rie. She's worked with SQL Server since 2005. She's done things with a lot of upgrades. She's worked with availability groups. She understands data center migrations. She also works with SSIS, one of my favorite tools. And so with that brief introduction, Rie, welcome to Data Driven.
Thank you. And thanks for you're so sweet.
It's all true. All true. All
Thanks
true.
for saying such a thing. So Frank.
And Eddie is really sweet too.
So Frank, let me say, I hope the strangest thing that I hear all day today is, thank God the axle snapped.
It's not something you hear every day, right?
It's not, but it's also not something that you sound grateful for. Like
This is true.
Somebody, I'm going to hear that, and somebody's immediately going to think, "Wow, what was the alternative?" That
Good point. Well, the alternative is a broken transmission, which is pretty much when I posted the picture of the car being towed away on Facebook.
Thank God the axle snapped.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure a lot of people who work with Guns N' Roses have thought that axle has snapped long ago.
Where's that sound effect, Frank?
True.
Here we go. Actually, let me do it again. I'll explain why I had to do it again later. Sorry.
So,
well, I'm really glad to be here today. So thanks for having me.
well, thank you so much, Rie. You were on a data point. I was down at the Azure Data Fest a couple weeks ago, and that was that was packed. I think it was sold out.
Yes, absolutely.
And it was just a lot of people.
It was, yeah.
We did a data point with you and Jeff Hyden and Stu, and I forget who else may have been. We got like everybody that walked by.
And
Julie,
right?
Julie, right? Yeah.
So I tried to stay out of the way over by the windows and mind my business.
I was not having it.
That is true. That is true.
Which is funny because on the video, it looks like a witness protection program video because you just see your silhouette because of the lighting and the camera.
And plus, you have an unusual name.
Yes, so I do.
That would feed into the whole witness protection program thing.
So it's actually the only other Rie that I've met in my life. Two of them, and they're both Japanese. So yeah.
Huh.
Well, I think it's an interesting name. So I don't mean that. I'm not doing air quotes.
It's a nickname.
Is it? Oh,
it's a nickname. It's not it's not the name my mama gave me.
Okay. But still interesting.
Thank you.
So tell us about what you do.
So like for a living, what they pay me to do is I am the director of database management for a payment security and tokenization firm here in Atlanta. And so what that means is I do some data work. I attend a lot of meetings.
That's fun.
And I manage a team. So, but part of the meetings are about planning what we're doing, and whether it's upgrades, migrations. Hey, how many servers do we have on SQL Server 2008? Because we need to get an end of life plan in place. That's a lot of my day. Is that right there? So.
So your title says you're a director of database administration and management. So is it fair to say you're a DBA? So.
Yes. Oh,
there was a qualifier there.
It's not. No. There are not many days that go by that I'm not connecting to a server.
Right.
And doing something. So I wear a few hats. We're a small team.
Gotcha.
But absolutely, I'm a DBA. And when I decide management is not for me anymore, that's what I'll do 100% of the time again. Interesting.
So I have a question that I'd like to ask, real DBAs and that we find in the wild, so to speak. How do you feel about this AI thing? Do you feel that your turf is being encroached upon? Are you excited that enterprises are finally waking up and realizing that data is an asset?
Well, so first of all, I think most enterprises don't really know what AI is.
Fair enough.
They a lot of vendors like to call, we've got AI. Do you really? What exactly does that mean to you? It's like everywhere I've ever worked, the CEO or somebody comes into my office or up to my desk and goes, we need BI. We've got to have it. And I'll say, well, why don't you tell me what you think BI means? And then I'll tell you if we've already got it. So I'm not concerned about my job going away because we have AI. If I had $1 for every time I've been told the DBA is dead, that task is dead, it's not. Just like anything else, it's evolving, and it's going to evolve to involve AI and to involve data and how it gets used, how it gets brought in, how it gets spit back out, and what it's used for. I liked your comment that data is the new oil, because it certainly is. I mean, I feel like I am nothing but a big pile of data. Everything about me is data, and everybody on the planet owns a piece of it because I use apps and, I shop. I'm pretty sure Target knows from the app that's on my phone what outfit I stood in front of for several minutes before walking on.
Target knows a lot of things about people before family members know about.
Do you remember that story about they sent information where the 15-year-old daughter was pregnant, and they sent information about baby
The father
stuff?
was livid, and
so they're
he tore the manager a new one, and then a couple of days later, depending on who you believe, he came by and apologized, or just called and apologized.
Absolutely. Big data. And said, you were right. I had a conversation with her. But part of what helped them predict was that the daughter had changed, that purchase, not necessarily daughter, but Target recognized that purchases had changed. Like suddenly they were using unscented lotions and had purchased a couple of other items. And there's a pattern. Pregnant women get nauseous when they smell things sometimes. So, it's kind of scary. I don't want to find out that from Target.
You have to wonder, though, what else do they know? And there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's all sorts of data about. I mean, I think you nailed it when you said, everybody on the planet has some piece of your data.
So I pondered recently at SQL Saturday Baton Rouge that if there was some data mining person at Marriott who wondered what was going on between a few of us because we're so frequently in the same hotel. It's SQL community people,
Right.
People that we speak at the same SQL Saturdays. I see them all the time. We happen to, we have status with Marriott, so that's where we stay. A lot of us do. We communicate ahead of time. Which hotel are you staying in? So I really think there's somebody somewhere at Marriott, and they have a big map, and they're putting these little pinpoints in the map to figure out who's having an affair with who.
It's funny you mentioned that because Uber did
Absolutely.
Did a similar thing with early morning, morning after Uber rides from different places, and they did a bunch of data analysis with different cities and stuff.
Well, Uber also did a bunch of bad stuff with their data. They were allowing individuals in the company to log on and look at people's data. They were tracking people after they got out of an Uber, specifically like people they knew, ex-girlfriends, things like that. So Uber is an example of what not to do.
Oh yeah, and in so many ways. I mean, they've rubbed a lot of people the wrong way for so many reasons, in so many ways.
Yeah, totally.
Which I think really brings up kind of the ethics side of this, which is, I've never been a DBA. I never even played a DBA on TV, but until recently.
The pay is better.
What?
The pay is better if you play one on TV.
It probably is, but but I mean, has ethics been a thing like in the DBA world, or is this just because of the power and damage that AI can do or data analytics can do?
So I think some of this isn't DBAs. This is, and at least specifically for Uber, it was upper management.
Right.
It's really hard when somebody in upper management comes to your desk and demands access to something to say no.
Right.
I have actually looked at a boss before and said, "You can fire me."
Well, that's a good DBA right there.
I'm not. You can't. You don't have access to that. You can just fire me.
Right.
And who's going to actually fire you? You want to explain that to the EEOC?
Or, the lawyer
Well, that's
that you
what,
talk to.
yeah. So
Right.
they would have been called before the EEOC. So yeah, absolutely, fire me.
Right.
And I would have no problem going to another job when they say, "Why did your employment at this last job end?" And I would say they asked me to do something unethical.
Good for you. I don't think. I think a lot of people would have been intimidated in that
I was going to
space.
say.
Yeah.
Although DBAs are cut from that. Doesn't DBA stand for "Don't Bother Asking"?
It stands for a lot of things. That is one of them. Yeah.
I love my sound effects. Sorry, Rie.
That's okay. We're good.
Well, one of the questions we ask folks, Rie, is how did you find your way into data? Did data find you, or did you find data?
So I am so lucky that I stumbled into this job that suits the way my brain works. And I have an undergraduate and a master's degree in sociology. I was in grad school and I was a graduate assistant at Auburn University. But
Cool.
we were wanting to collect data and do analysis on it, surveys and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
But we didn't have the tools to do it. What we were doing was you can purchase large data sets from other people where they've collected data and they've entered it. And so we could purchase that and they would upload it to the mainframe at the university, and to do analysis on it, we would either have to submit essentially the questions we wanted to ask to the IT department of the university, and they would get around to it whenever they got around to it. But I started teaching myself SAS so that I could ask it myself. I'm impatient apparently, and didn't want to wait on them, and they didn't care if, suddenly I'm going to be not asking them to do stuff.
Right.
So I started pecking around and trying to figure it out.
Nice.
But then I found something called SPSS, which is the Statistical Package for the Social Sciences. And I convinced my department to purchase it.
Wow, and that's not a trivial cost.
So we didn't have to buy like some enterprise license.
Because it was academic. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just, we bought it for the department and it wasn't that horrible. And they actually installed it directly on my machine.
Whoa.
So, right? So, but we ended up putting it on several others, but it started with me.
Nice.
And then these professors in the department figured out, hey, we've got this girl who can analyze data. And I've got this stack of questionnaires, literally a stack of paper questionnaires that I've been wanting to do something with. And they'd walk in and drop it on my desk. Hey, can you do something with this?
Interesting.
Okay. So my very first job out of grad school was with Nielsen Media Research.
Interesting.
And it's because I knew SAS. From there, I shifted to a university where I was the research coordinator. And what that meant was, so in Georgia, every university has to create a bunch of information, take the data that they have and create a bunch of information to send to the states, demographics about their school, their student body, their professors, how people break down into what majors are, a lot of different things like that. And so that was the job that I got because I was doing data analysis. And that was pretty interesting. I actually learned a lot about the university system and how reporting works and that kind of stuff. And I even had, there were aspects of my job that weren't technical. But from there, I went to work for a nonprofit that did tax data, and they for nonprofits, and they partnered with the IRS. And I was a data analyst there. And then one Friday afternoon, I got an email from the senior DBA that said, "Hey, since at that point I'd taken a couple of SQL classes on my own and was trying to peck through our data myself. And I got an email that said, 'Hey, on Monday when you come to work, you're going to be the new junior DBA.'"
Were you happy to hear
And I
that, or were
said, "Does
you
that quite?"
like,
Very much so. I had already even gone to the VP of IT to talk about my future in the company and what I wanted to do. And he turned out to be a fantastic boss. Really, really, really helped me grow up to a point. But I emailed him back, said, "Does this come with a pay raise?" And he replied, "No." And I said, "Then I will accept being allowed to add the word junior to my name in my email signature." And he said, "Okay, deal." So I was Rie Irish junior DBA. And I left it like that for about 6 months just because it entertained me. But instead of a pay grade, I was a junior. But he turned out to be a great boss in that when I came up on a problem and I would say, "Rich, I don't know how to solve this," he would give me half an inch of the direction I needed to go and then say, "Now go figure it out."
That is good.
He reformatted every piece of code I ever wrote because he didn't like the way I formatted it. It drove me crazy. But I actually think that I now still format code a little bit the way that he did. I did outgrow the position probably a good while before I left. I mean, I was with the company for 6 years. I was very comfortable. I made his life very comfortable. And I think he could have done a better job of encouraging me by like shoving me out of the nest. But the lesson that I've learned from that is that now that I'm a manager, I recognize that it's my job to mentor the people I hire and to make sure they are getting everything out of this job and that they haven't outgrown it. And so far, I haven't had to shove anybody out of the nest, but it does allow me to throw bigger problems at them.
interesting? It's always those coaches or mentors that you've had that push you. That at the time you're like, really, but I think over time you appreciate their doing that. I remember one guy I worked for forced me to use VI, which for you kids out there is a very old text editor on Unix, and it is not known for its usability. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say my very first task as his DBA was we migrated Oracle to SQL Server 2000, and nobody told me that was supposed to be hard.
You didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't. That's what I had to learn to use VI
Right.
to get, because it was Oracle on Linux or Unix.
So Toad was a thing about that time too, right?
Yes, actually, I've used Toad.
Was it That Term Inc. or something like that? That's how you get and all these like horrible flashbacks of working with Oracle are coming back to me now.
This was actually, wow, how long ago was this? This was shortly after my daughter was born, so this was probably 2002.
Mm-hmm.
I am hopeful that I remember none of it. I'm hopeful that enough time has passed that it's just all purged.
Purged.
Well, very cool. So what would you say your favorite part of your current gig is, Rie?
It's probably the mentoring my team, and I'm not necessarily mentor in a traditional sense, but sponsoring my team, which is a concept I've introduced because I learned about it a couple of years ago as part of my work with women in tech. So matching them, working with my team and matching them up with tasks that they want to do and that they're going to be passionate about. And luckily, there's a little bit of overlap in what they're passionate about, but they're also interested in very, very different things. So I can just let them run when they find something that they want to work at. So I really love this broader picture that I have of the company as a whole, plus the micro work that my company is doing and how that fits into where the company is going.
Right. You
It's
mentioned,
really cool being
sorry,
part of that.
you mentioned women in tech, and I know
Yes,
you do a lot with that. I know you're one of the leaders in the SQL Server
that's my
community.
jam. Yeah, that's my jam.
Yeah. Talk about that some.
Wow. So I think it's been 2.5 years since Kathy Kellenberger and I took over the Women in Tech group for PASS. And before I took this over, I was moderating panels at SQL Saturdays, discussions on women in tech topics. And I think I've always been passionate about it because there are a number of jobs that I've had in my 2+ decades of being in IT, where I was the only female,
Wow.
period. In IT, only female.
Wow.
And to be honest, that can kind of suck.
Yeah.
And of course, then I had my daughter, and that changes your perception for the world because of how it's going to treat her and how things are for you.
Right.
But I thought this was a place where I could affect some positive change, even if it's one person at a time. Every SQL Saturday that I attend, in addition to presenting, I end up having a conversation with someone who asks me some pretty serious questions, and I give them some pretty serious answers.
Yeah.
And I think it probably helps that I'm a capital F feminist, and I am so unapologetic about it. But I don't hate men. I love men. Y'all open jars. So, so to sit down with somebody and have a conversation and have them ask me, so this situation comes up at work, how should I handle this?
Right.
And to be able to give them some constructive advice on here's how you should approach this. This is what I think she would appreciate. If you handled this way at work, and they're all like, oh, awesome. That's great. Thank you. So one person at a time.
Right.
I'm trying to make a difference. And obviously I'm trying it on a bigger scale too. I had the advantage, I had the honor of speaking at pre-day last year at MVP Summit in Seattle.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I think it may be the biggest room, largest crowd I've ever spoken to live. And but I spoke about representing and supporting women's voices in IT and in business. And I always come up with, anytime I run any kind of panel or session or whatever, it's really, really easy for it to turn into a gripe session because it sucks for a lot of women out there in IT.
Yeah.
But I always intro with, it's really important that if you come to me with a problem, that you walk away with a solution. Whether I tell you how you could have handled that, whether we ask somebody else in the audience how they would have handled that, or I ask you to come up with what do you think you should have done, so that it's all solution oriented. I really, really want, and there are times where it really does start to devolve into just a gripe session, and I'll just put the brakes on it. Stop. We're losing focus. This isn't going to help anybody. If you'd like to talk to me about this later, we can. But it was quite the honor, and I ended up, after that session at MVP Summit, ended up in the corridor outside of the room for over an hour with people asking me questions.
Wow.
About very specific things they needed feedback or advice on. So it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful.
That's cool. So as a data head or data person here, have you seen patterns in the questions that you get? Does the same thing come up again? Is it, what's the distribution there? Do you have one? Is it predictable? Oh, okay.
Well, so it's predictable based on what I talked about. I mean, obviously, the questions that I get are geared more toward what it is that I've talked about. Inevitably, I get the question, well, what do you do when you have a female boss? who's a real, insert pejorative. Yes. So, or it always baffles me, even when I have women in the crowd who will say, well, oh yeah, sometimes it's
Right.
women. And of course it is. Anybody can be a jerk. And I've even told people, I've had somebody come to me with a problem about a boss or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I hate
A
to
jerk.
say this. It doesn't sound like
Right.
he's a sexist. It sounds like he's, a jerk. But I don't say jerk.
Right.
It sounds like he's just not a nice guy. He's an equal opportunity offender.
Yeah.
So, my advice as the women in tech person isn't going to be effective. Now, my advice as someone who holds a master's degree in sociology is going to be really effective. Let me tell you how to manipulate him.
Right. I was going to ask, like, how does that? Imagine that it's probably not a well-traveled path, but you probably have some interesting special powers and skills because of it.
I can, maybe I'll show Andy this the next time we're together. I can make people walk in a circle, men specifically walk in a circle, based on what I know about how men handle personal space.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
Yeah. So, and I'll do it sometimes. I'll do it sometimes because if I can get someone to physically retreat, they will verbally, emotionally, whatever retreat and be more open to what it is that we're talking about.
Wow.
It's not like I do it to
Interesting.
humiliate anybody or whatever, but it's called verbal judo. I had a college professor who wrote a book about it.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, I can do this. And it helps that I'm 5'7". I mean, if you're 5'2" and you're trying to get somebody to do that, it's less effective.
Right.
But
Right.
it has to do with being in their space and making them just a tad uncomfortable. So
Interesting.
yeah.
That is.
So our next question is complete the sentence. And we have a few of these. When I'm not working, I enjoy blank.
Watching sports.
Interesting.
I am. Oh yeah.
I see you're I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Is it Bama or Bama?
Well, it's Alabama.
Oh,
So it's the University of Alabama, their football team.
Got it.
Even though I know I got my graduate degree at Auburn. That's the big rival. I'm a Bama fan. I watch Bama football loudly. I'm a Falcons fan, Atlanta Falcons here. And so I actually didn't see the Alabama game last Saturday because my boyfriend and I were at a baseball game here in Atlanta. So we go to a lot of, there's a AAA team that feeds the Atlanta Braves about 11 miles from my house.
Oh, cool.
And so we go to a couple of games a month all summer long. And this past Saturday was the last one. And I finally convinced my daughter to go to a game because her boyfriend came.
Mm-hmm.
And she texts me a couple of innings in because we let them go sit. There's this big grassy area in the outfield. We let them go sit back there. And she texted me a couple of innings in and said, baseball is boring. And I replied, and water is wet. So, I mean, if you have no idea what's going on or who the players are or anything, baseball can be really boring.
Sure.
But I watch a lot of sports. In the fall, my whole weekends are football. So I do a few years ago, Andy, so we were talking football at Summit, and one of the guys asked me, they were like, oh, you like football, huh? With this tone.
Really?
And I'm standing around talking to a bunch of other SEC guys, and one of them nudged him and said, dude, this is going to hurt. Because he was like, oh, who's your favorite Falcon? Like I wouldn't be able to name a Falcons player.
Seriously.
So, yeah, I went off for a couple of minutes, and then he was like, oh. But, yeah, his question was, oh, well, is your boyfriend a Falcons fan? No.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, he had that coming.
Sounds like he not only stepped in it, but
yeah. Oh, totally.
stepped in it hard. I said, please, may I be beaten?
That's it.
Tracked it through the house. Yeah.
Well, our next.
Yeah.
Our next complete this sentence is, I think the coolest thing in technology today is blank.
Probably AI, real AI, and what it can do. And I mean, we have robot vacuums, not even just the old ones that just kind of like ran around and bumped into stuff, but
Right.
that map your house and know where they vacuumed yesterday. Something that simple.
Yeah.
My vacuum can talk to Alexa and tell me at work when it's done. I can't get my daughter to vacuum,
My son acts like we're torturing him when we ask him to the dishwasher.
but my vacuum will tell me
Yeah.
when it's done. You know,
Oh,
right now I have
wow.
to call my daughter and say, hey, just wanted to let you know I'm on my way home, so that she knows she has about 20 minutes to empty the dishwasher. That's what I mean, it's that dance we do, you know. So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh, no, she definitely acts like I'm torturing her. But
Right.
it'll be worse if I get home and she hasn't emptied it. So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, Rie, we have one more fill in the blank. I look forward to the day when I can use technology to blank.
Wow. So this is one of those that I really struggled with, because so much is happening so fast. Just about anything I fill in the blank here, we're already doing. You know, even
Yeah.
medical stuff, where I can log on to my computer and talk to a doctor and get diagnosed. So, you know,
Right.
but you know, I probably make sure people don't go hungry. I think would be that's my thing. That's my charity is food banks. And
Yeah.
my daughter has a rule that if she's ever out with friends or whatever and somebody doesn't have money for food, she better feed them. People don't get to go hungry.
Very
So
cool.
I look forward to the day when we use
Yeah.
technology to make sure people get fed. Something that simple that I take for granted. I have a couple of bags of nuts in my desk. So
Yeah.
and people don't even have that. They don't have fresh water. So
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. Yeah. So, one other thing we like to ask guests is to share something different about yourself. I think you've already shared a couple things that are different about
well,
yourself.
so here's
Um,
this odd thing. I tap dance. How's that? I do
Oh,
So
wow.
I
Okay,
did take
that's
dance as a
interesting.
kid. We couldn't afford it, you know. Working class family, 3 daughters. I didn't get to take classes, so I started dance as an adult and took tap and other classes for about 10 years, and only stopped taking classes when I moved down here to Georgia.
What if? Can you make us dance in a
So
circle though?
just don't ask me
Mm.
to
Very
dance
cool.
for you.
I can
I will.
always take it to the
I'll
next
do.
level.
I will do that. If I can
There you
get you to
go.
walk in a circle, I'll like do some shuffle hop step for you or something like that. Something.
Okay.
No, I can't. Absolutely. That is now I have a goal.
There's one last question we do ask, and it was not on the invite. We need to update that now that we're in season 2. Uh, Audible is a big sponsor of ours. We love Audible. Personally, I think if you look at the chart of how many books I bought, it's alarming.
hmm
I think it's exponential growth. Um, are you into audiobooks?
I a little. I don't have a long commute anymore. I don't spend a lot of time in the car, so
Right.
not as
Mm.
much as I should be. I still love to read a paper book.
There's something about that feel of dead trees, isn't there?
Absolutely. Well, it's not, they breed these trees, they grow these trees just for paper.
I'm just
It's not
being.
like we suddenly stop buying books. There'll be more trees. They'll stop planting those trees. So I do. I
Right.
like being able to move a bookmark forward
Right.
and kind of doze off while I'm laying there under it and the book falls and hits me. You know?
Gotcha. Anything interesting you're reading now?
Let's see. What have I read recently? So one of the books I probably read this one about a year ago, but I tell people about it all the time. It's a book called Technically Wrong, and it addresses bias that seeps into the applications that we build.
Oh, interesting.
And it absolutely changed the way I look at everything. So, Technically Wrong.
This is a hot topic. And I think one of the problems I think people understanding bias in data is the word bias itself. I think there's a certain implication of malice.
Yeah.
Where most of the time there's not. It's just bias might just be baked into the process of certainly collecting data.
Well, so anytime I do any kind of session, if we're going to talk about bias, I actually define bias at the very beginning. And that definition changes based on what we're going to talk about.
Right.
But for application bias, I say, in this particular case, it is the introduction of skew. And so for facial recognition software, it's biased because the original data set was 85% white men. So it's learned based on a faulty data set. So that it's really, really bad at recognizing African-American female.
Right.
The failure rate is really, really high for African-American females. It's slightly better for African-American males, slightly better for white females, and then dead-on accurate for white guys. But it's because the original data set they used, I think, contained like members of the House of Parliament in the UK or something. So mostly white guys. So its learning algorithm is based on a skewed set. So if we got something wrong there, and nobody has put in enough time until fairly recently into fixing how AI learns with facial recognition,
right?
You have to kind of undo.
That is interesting.
So I looked up. It actually is on Audible as an audiobook.
Technically Wrong?
And Technically Wrong. 4.4 stars.
Wow.
And 5 hours, 42 minutes. And here's the good news for our listeners. If you go to thedatadrivenbook.com or thedatadrivenbook.com, see what I did there?
Either of those, yeah.
You will get one free book. And this could be your free book.
Nice.
Or, yeah, it's pretty cool. And if you sign up for the subscription, which audiobooks are very addictive, so heads up there. We'll get a certain amount of money. It's a great way to support the show. Also, I think one of the things I've learned over the last couple of years is the importance of lifelong learning. And I do a lot of I do a lot of driving. Unlike you, I spend a lot of time in my car. So I really enjoy having audiobooks as a way to enrich, make use of that time.
Yeah, same here. Definitely. We also have T-shirts available, Frank. And
that's right. We're fancy now. We're on Amazon.
We're on Amazon. That's right.
So if you do a search for data graffiti, that's the keywords apparently somehow magically I managed to own, quote unquote. So we're the first result.
Nice.
Plus something about vandalism, oddly enough.
Oh, but that even works with the stickers that you were talking about earlier.
Oh, really? The stickers are there too?
No, you mentioned that they look like data in graffiti.
Oh, they do. Yeah, I'll send you a picture and we'll post a picture in the show notes.
Was that on purpose or is that just?
Oh, that's on purpose. So there's we love sidetracks on the show, Rie. So, but yeah, so there was this graphic artist. I think I looked it up because he went to the Rhode Island School of Design and he worked in New York or something like that. And he basically, it started with a picture of Andre the Giant and the words "obey" under it. So if you're familiar with that, and then I got the idea for the data one because I was somewhere and I saw somebody had a picture of the same style of the guy from The Big Lebowski, and underneath it, instead of "obey," it said "abide."
Oh, so it was the dude.
It was the dude, yeah. I was thinking, I couldn't think of Jeff Bridges' name, but yeah, the dude. So it was like So it said abide, and I think that's cool. And then like somehow in PowerPoint you have icons now. PowerPoint 2016, if you go to insert, and one of the things is it's an icon of a duck and a leaf. If you click on that, there's a whole bunch of icons in there that you can use in your presentations and that stuff. But one of them is a data thing, and when I inserted it in my PowerPoint presentation, just by chance or luck, it looked a lot like that obey/abide thing. And I'm like, hey, and that's how it was born. It was magic.
Well, Rie, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to have you, and the data point you were on was fun. So I encourage folks to go watch that too. And where's a place people can find out more about what you're up to? Do you have a blog, Twitter handle?
I am at Irish Sequel. I also run at pass_wit, but you can follow the passwit hashtag. I have a blog that I'm horrible about writing for, and it's repedia.net.
Okay.
Because my friends jokingly call me Repedia because I am full of really stupid, useless information.
I doubt that.
I remember the dumbest things. And I'll say, well, everybody knows that. And everybody looks at me and goes, no, Rie, just you.
That's funny. Yeah. All right.
Very
well,
cool.
With that, we want to be respectful of your time, Rie, and thanks for coming on the show, and we'll let the nice British lady finish the show.
Thanks for listening to Data Driven. Don't just listen. Become a data driver by going to datadriven.tv to sign up to join the community, access to special events, tips and tricks, and more. Sign up today at datadriven.tv.